Gluttony and greed are two of the seven deadly sins, so it surprises me when I see Christian TikTokers showing off their hauls that include hundreds of different Kool-Aid flavorings, hundreds of different Sol de Janeiro body oils, and hundreds more Stanley cups. But it's not just Christian TikTokers that have taken this trend up. Children, teenagers, moms, single women, married women, they're all buying up massive amounts of soap, lotion, thermos, anything they can get their hands on, and this episode will attempt to figure out why they feel the need to do that. Hi guys, welcome back. Or welcome to Lily's Little Life Corner, where I, your host Lily, take a look at various different topics through the lens of all the little tidbits of psychology I've learned throughout my life. That is to say, I'm not a licensed psychologist, I'm just a psychology enthusiast. So take everything I say with a grain of salt and feel free to disagree or add on to whatever I say. However, despite my armchair psychology takes on all the topics that I talk about, I still do my best to research everything thoroughly, and every single article I come across will be linked in the description so you guys can read along. Quick note, I will only be touching on 4 different types of overconsumers on TikTok, so if you're wondering why I didn't mention a certain community, that's why. This is not meant to be an exhaustive video on all the overconsumption communities that exist online. Also, please remember that these podcast episodes are available to listen to on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, so if you want to save data, you can always go on there. The links for that will be down below. This will be a long episode, so grab a blanket and a snack, and I hope you enjoy. Before we get into it, I do want to apologize for the late upload. Doctor's appointments have kept me really busy, and as you can tell by the length of this episode, this was a time-consuming episode. I think my word count for my first draft of this script was around 10,000 words. By the way, if you want to read the first drafts of all of my scripts, they are up on my Patreon and available for only $1 a month. Now, let's get into it. I've been wanting to make a podcast episode about overconsumption since I started this podcast. I had been seeing so many TikToks on my For You page of various different women and children, typically girls, showing off insane amounts of one single item. It's either tons of bottles of one specific brand of lotion, or tons of different Stanley cups, or tons of different water flavorings, or even tons of different ice molds. I will try and show you all of this with the TikToks so that you can see for yourself. Chances are, though, that if you have been on TikTok, you've come across videos like this or videos talking about this. But it wasn't until I saw Kiki Chanel's video essay on overconsumption that I really decided to dedicate some time to this. In that video essay, she asked a very relevant question.
And it's like, what's the psychology behind people wanting their house to look like a store?
What is the psychology behind people wanting their house to look like a store? Well, let's watch some TikToks so that we can both understand what this overconsumption looks like. If you're listening in podcast format, I will be describing what is happening as always so you don't have to miss out. I also don't think I'm going to name the influencers. You can easily find these kinds of TikToks by searching for specific keywords, and I'll tell you what those keywords are, but I don't want these influencers to get any hate, so I won't name them. It goes without saying, please don't send anyone any hate for this. Not only is that not what I want, but sending hate to these people will likely encourage them to keep doing what they're doing, so it's counterproductive to what I want to achieve with this episode. And again, I'm only going into 4 different types of TikTokers that overconsume because they're the ones that caught my attention the most, and I thought they'd be interesting to talk about. However, if you watch other videos on overconsumption, you'll see many different kinds of overconsumption and many different sub-labels of overconsumption. The first type of overconsumer we will be talking about is the overconsumer that always feels dirty. Quick trigger warning for anyone who has OCD or any other type of obsessive or compulsive disorder. I will be talking about things that may trigger your compulsions, such as the need to clean yourself obsessively. So if you feel that might be the case for you, please do skip this section. I will list the chapters down below so you can easily skip to the next section. This type has really gained popularity ever since the clean girl aesthetic started trending. There was an obsession with not only looking clean, but smelling and being clean. And this aesthetic really got started after celebrities started exposing their own hygiene routines. Some celebrities shared how they only showered once a week, while others shared that they showered 3 times a day. The internet went a bit crazy over these revelations, and a conversation around cleanliness started. This was also how we got oil pulling, African net sponges, and tongue scrapers to trend. So these are the TikToks that we will watch first. The first TikTok we're going to watch is an ASMR video where the creator is cleaning her Sol de Janeiro shelf, and I found this by searching Sol de Janeiro shelf. If you guys don't know, Sol de Janeiro is a brand that sells lotions, perfumes, body oils, and some hair care products. This is a really popular brand to buy a ton of, and you'll come across so many other TikToks of other creators showing off their collections. So this TikTok starts off with a shot of this person's skincare shelf. The top shelf it looks like lotions. The second shelf looks like perfumes, and those lotions that have scent to them, kind of like the Victoria's Secret scented lotions. A lot of girls had those when I went to middle school. Then the third shelf is where all the Sol de Janeiro products are. They have the body mist, the body butters, some hair care things, and perfumes. The fourth shelf is filled to the brim with Tree Hut scrubs. I can count 30 of those in this shot, and there's no doubt more behind those. And then as she pans her camera across another part of her skincare area, you can see she has a ton more products just waiting to be used up. But this is a Sol de Janeiro TikTok, so let's focus on that. So she's cleaning out that shelf, and all of the products have been arranged on the bed, and this is where you get another good look at how many products she has. Just for reference, that yellow body butter container that she has right in the middle of the screen costs $48 USD. It is called the Brazilian Bum Bum Cream, and it's supposed to tighten the appearance of your bum, as well as hydrate it and make your skin look healthy. It's supposed to be really good for your skin, but this creator has 5 of those that I can count. And some of you might say, but different creams do different things. However, if a brand is advertising their body butters as specific to your butt, that tells you everything you need to know. They're just trying to sell you a gimmicky product, in my opinion. This particular body butter has supposedly skin tightening ingredients to help you get rid of stretch marks and to help tighten your skin, but overall it does the same thing any body butter does. It hydrates your skin. I cannot think of any reason why you might buy 5 of these for yourself. Sol de Janeiro has 5 different creams that all have essential oils and are really healthy for the skin, but I don't personally understand why they need 5 different creams. I think they just need 3, one to get rid of stretch marks, one to hydrate, and one to brighten skin. But they have a mood boosting duo. They have 2 different deeply hydrating creams that are marketed to do 2 different things, but if you go into the features and benefits section, it's essentially the same thing. But I will get more into the marketing aspect a bit later. Overall, though, this TikTok is pretty tame in comparison to other TikToks we're about to watch. This next one is a TikTok of a creator showing off her Tree Hut skincare collection. And this is where I start to worry about the mental health of everyone here. She has at least 60 Tree Hut scrubs that we can see. Then she has 13 more body butters, some oils, some lotions, what have you. If you don't know, body scrubs are meant to scrub off dead skin and can be incredibly harsh if you're using them every time you shower. Scrubs typically have tiny little balls that are supposed to exfoliate your skin, but you really should only be exfoliating your skin 1 to 2 times a week to prevent irritation and dry skin. Now, to be fair, the Tree Hut scrubs just have sugar in them, which makes them a tiny bit less harsh on the skin, but they can still be harsh on the skin if you're showering every day and using the scrubs every day. As you can see, her shelves are overflowing, and if you can't see, just know that her shelves are overflowing with Tree Hut products. 5 of her body scrubs are hanging on for dear life on the bottom shelf. And yet, this TikTok is all about this creator saying they really want the Tree Hut fragrance mists. It's pretty much the only thing missing from their collection, so they go to Ulta and buy a ton of fragrance mists. And the rest of this TikTok is them asking, where am I going to put all these new products? And then showing off their very unrealistic dilemma. Unfortunately, on the website, prices for their products are not listed, but on Target, the scrubs range from $9 to $10 USD, and the mists are $10 each. So this creator likely spent around $540 to $600 for the Tree Hut scrubs alone. If they have at least $600 to spend on body scrubs, I reckon they also have $10 to buy some more shelves. Which the end of this TikTok was them saying that they were going to put up new shelves. But this is something that the normal population does not struggle with. But anyway, let's move on. The next TikTok is a pretty short TikTok, but it is sadly very common. All you have to do to come across it and others like it is search for body wash shelves. It is a TikTok of someone showing off their shower, and in their shower they have at least 10 different loofahs or African net sponges, at least 30 Tree Hut scrubs, and at least 15 different body washes, and another 15 in-shower body lotions, plus body oils, face washes, and hair masks. Because of the frankly insane amount of products, this creator has had to install extra shower caddies and shelves inside the shower. And again, for each of these TikToks I showed, there are hundreds more that have a similar premise to it. And each of their comment sections are mostly filled with others commenting things like, girl, I'm jealous, and you're living my dream life, or this is what I have. Others are defending it. For example, that last TikTok had comments saying things like, curly-haired girls need this, which, no, I'm a curly-haired girl and I don't have anywhere near this amount of products. Curly hair does not need 30 different body scrubs. If I use body scrubs on my hair, it will fall off. If I use body wash on my hair, it will fall off. The only thing I need for my curly hair is shampoo, conditioner, and a hair mask once a week. I'll occasionally use a scalp cleanser, but I don't really need it all that often because I have a scalp massager that I use sometimes to apply my shampoo. And if you have African net sponges, you shouldn't need body scrubs. African net sponges are an exfoliating sponge. They have knots in their netting that exfoliate your skin. A lot of these products are not necessary if you have another product that does the same thing, but we will get into it a bit later. Anyway, let's move on. The next kind of overconsumer TikToks that I will show you are from so-called WaterTok. This is a site of TikTok that is full of people claiming they love to drink water. These kinds of TikTokers I don't feel such worry over. I'll get into why after we watch the TikTok. The first TikTok we will watch is a creator making a water recipe. This one we will watch in full and then talk about later. For context, this is a creator video replying to a comment that reads, "So close, that's watery juice."
Let's make my water of the day. What flavors am I gonna choose today? I'm in a Skittles mood today, so I'm gonna do the purple Skittles and then also a blue Skittles packet, which is pineapple and passion fruit. Okay, I'm doing a full packet of the Wild Berry Punch Skittles packet. This one's one of my favorites. Let's give that a little mixeroonie. Let's add in my ice. I need a lot. Now to my second water bottle. Let's add half of that pineapple passion fruit packet here. Let's shake that up now. All right, now I'm gonna try to layer this on top of the purple layer and it's gonna look beautiful if we can execute it. I think it's working. Oh my God, I think this is the cleanest layer we've ever had. It looks so beautiful, I don't even wanna do anything to it. But we have to top it off with a skinny syrup, of course. So I'm going to try the mermaid syrup on top of this here and hopefully it won't mess up our layer. Nope, it's looking like we're still layered and beautiful. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? It's so pretty. I don't even want to mix it, but we have to get all those flavors combined. Let's just do it. R.I.P. I'm so sorry. This is going to be a beautiful, gorgeous color, though. Oh my goodness. It's like a, I don't know, like a really dark periwinkle color. It's so pretty. Let's try it. Oh, of course it's good.
Yeah, this is not water. This is Kool-Aid at best. However, like I said, I'm not too worried about these kinds of TikTokers. I don't know about all of them on all of WaterTok, but I know some of them are drinking this type of water because they used to drink this much soda, but are now bettering themselves. I think that's a really good thing that they're doing for their health, and I really encourage this. I once saw one of those TikToks that's comparing the United States versus the UK, and the creator from the UK was saying that Americans are so obsessed with soda and that we're always drinking 40 ounces of soda. And the creator from the United States was saying, well, it's not 40 ounces of soda, it's 20 ounces of soda and 20 ounces of ice. But that's not any better, is it? 20 ounces of soda is still 20 ounces of soda a day, but these water recipes do have significantly less sugar and calories than something at Swig would have. Even Swig's healthiest drinks are still super unhealthy compared to this. My issue comes with two things. One, this is not water. This is sugar-free Kool-Aid. And two, this is still overconsumption. I'm someone who loves plain water, and I cannot understand how these recipes are delicious, but it's neither here nor there. And again, most of the comments are not talking about the overconsumption aspect. Some of the top comments are calling out the fact that this is not water, this is juice. But other comments are more concerned about the fact that this creator is using bottled water and not filtered or tap water, which is the problem. But those comments are few and far between. Other comments are suggesting more recipes to try and giving him tips and tricks. It's a mixed bag of comments. But once again, this is not the only TikTok like this. This is a whole community full of people sharing different water recipes and suggesting new ice shapes to try, new brands of flavoring, new syrup flavors. Just search up WaterTok on the TikTok search bar and you'll be met with thousands of different creators doing this exact same thing. On screen, I'll show some different TikToks I came across, but just know each of these follow a very similar premise. They start with a 40-ounce cup filled with ice, and then they add their flavoring to brand new unopened water bottles. And then they'll layer their water with the different flavorings and syrups, and they end their TikTok with taking a sip and talking about how good it tastes. Some creators use literal juice in their water, or other products like LaCroix or anything similar to it, but each claim that their recipe is water. This TikTok I couldn't download, but it's another TikTok showing off a different water recipe. It's really no different to the others I've showed, but I wanted to bring attention to the insane amount of products that are present in the TikTok. There are at least 100 different flavor packets, 20 of those flavor squirts, and at least 13 syrups. These syrups I had only ever seen in the restaurant I used to work at, and we used them for iced coffee. And this is where the overconsumption angle comes into play. The next type of overconsumer we will cover aligns with WaterTok. They kind of go hand in hand. These are the Stanley Cup overconsumers. If you have been out of the loop and you don't know what a Stanley Cup is, it is a reusable thermos. You can put hot coffee in there, cold coffee, cold water, juice, whatever you want, and it's supposed to keep the temperature of whatever you put in there. I typically use my thermos for water because, again, I love water. I'm always drinking water and I enjoy cold water, but I just have a regular thermos. It's not Stanley or Hydro Flask or any of those name brands. I just picked it up from my garage. It was laying there and I needed a new thermos with a straw, so I got it. I think my mom was gifted it or got it at a garage sale, but she prefers thermos with lids on, so it sat in the garage for a bit before I picked it up to use it. I washed it before, don't worry, but I didn't need to spend money on it. That's my point. But a lot of these people are obsessed with Stanley Cups. Kiki Chanel has a video going in depth about this obsession. She shows many different TikToks where people fight over limited edition Stanley Cups, people getting in long lines just to buy the latest Stanley Cup. It's truly some of the most insane behavior I've ever seen. It reminds me of how Black Fridays used to be like. Except these people are not fighting over multiple good deals and items at 90% off. These people are fighting over a singular, overpriced, unhealthy product. It's not even a good deal. And by the way, I'm saying Stanley Cups are unhealthy because it was recently found that Stanley Cups have a worrying amount of lead in them, and customers are suing them for not disclosing that information. I'll leave a link to a USA Today article that talks about the lawsuit in the description in case you want to read more about it. I also recently found out that there's another lawsuit brewing on the horizon for Stanley Cups. Customers are suing them because the brand failed to properly notify customers that their lids were faulty. And if you put hot coffee in your thermos without knowing the lid was faulty, you could end up with a severe burn. But anyway, this is extended to more insane behavior. People have started using their typically 40-ounce Stanley cups as purses. They have started buying accessories that clip onto the handle of Stanley cups, and they're putting sunscreen, vitamins, hand sanitizer, toothpicks, AirPods, lip balm, pretty much anything you can think of in those accessories. On screen, I'm also showing examples of this, but again, don't worry if you're not watching, you're not missing out on much. You can find these TikToks if you search Stanley Cup accessories. Just be prepared for the absurd accessories that you'll come across. There's another step up to this insanity though. Using your Stanley Cup as a purse is not necessarily too insane. It's still pretty insane, like just carry a purse. But, Stanleys are pretty big. Maybe they don't fit in your purse. Maybe you need one hand to be free, so you decide to just carry your Stanley Cup. I'm someone who might do this because I prefer to carry my water bottle and just stuff my important things in my jacket pocket. But I think I'd still prefer using my jacket pockets over accessorizing my water bottle. But some people truly do not know any limits. These people have resorted to adding trays on top of their Stanley Cups. These are trays that sit right on top of your Stanley Cup. They usually have different sections. They remind me of those plates you get for kids that have different shapes where you can put their little sippy cup, and then a different section for a sandwich, a little section for chips, and so on. Or even like the lunch trays that they give out at school. That's what that reminds me of. But in these trays, people will add snacks. To find these TikToks, all you need to do is search Stanley snack trays. But people are putting M&Ms, Oreos, yogurt, ice cream, chips, sometimes cheese, crackers, popcorn, and the craziest yet, entire fast food meals. There's actually a TikTok of that playing on screen right now. It's a person emptying out their Chick-fil-A into a tiny circular tray that's sitting on top of their Stanley Cup. And as comments are pointing out, one wrong move and your soda is getting all over your burgers and fries. Which is why a lot of these influencers that are showing off their snack trays do give me the impression that they're doing it for rage bait. They know that people will engage with that kind of content more because of how insane everything looks. So they buy these things just for clicks and views. I wouldn't be surprised if after the TikToks, most of these influencers put their food on normal plates and put the tray in the sink. However, you can still find people in the comment sections of these TikToks saying that they want that life. They are being influenced just by watching these videos, which is a problem. Most of the comments, though, are calling it out for what it is, so I'm not too worried. At least not yet. Another very worrying type of overconsumer is the mukbanger. Trigger warning for this section, I will be talking about disordered eating. So if that's something that you don't feel comfortable listening to, please skip to the next section. I'm not going to show anything for this, but you can easily find these TikToks just by searching mukbangs. Fair warning though, if you've never seen them, they can be very gross to watch and listen to. Now, there is nothing wrong with mukbangs inherently. The trend started in Korea and it got started for a very good reason. Often, people in Korea eat alone, so mukbang influencers started uploading their videos to provide a sense of community to those who ate alone. These first mukbangers would eat respectfully and would make conversation and talk about different topics, as well as ask their viewers about their days and lives. It truly felt like eating lunch with your friend. A really good example of this is Stephanie Sue. She no longer uploads mukbangs, but she still has a few mukbangs up on her channel where she's sharing food with her family and eating very respectfully. She never talks when she's in the middle of chewing her food, and she's never messy when she eats. I'm sure you can find more influencers that are also eating respectfully though. Keith Lee is someone that comes to mind, though he's not a mukbanger. He's a food influencer who reviews restaurants that people recommend to him, but he still eats on camera and does so in a very normal way and is very respectful when he does so. I'm someone who watched Stephanie's mukbangs because it truly felt like I was eating with my friend. However, in recent times, the word mukbang has become synonymous with messy eating, and this really only happened because of Nikocado Avocado, who was the first messy eater that got very famous. Influencers that film themselves eating nowadays eat massive amounts of food, and they are super messy with it. More often than not, they are alone, but they're eating enough food for 5 people. If you want to look into this, just look for Jelly Bean Sweets. She is someone who broke her pescatarian diet to start eating unhealthy amounts of fast food on camera, and she was recently caught selling these videos to men who have a kink for messy eating and watching people gain weight. Yes, there are people who get off on seeing someone gain weight. There's also people who get off on watching people develop lung cancer from chain smoking. There's a community for everything. The last overconsumer we will look at are the Restock overconsumers. These are TikTokers that are always adding more and more to their house. Like with a lot of trends, this trend started off with good intentions. It was just stay-at-home moms showing different ways their homes stay organized. They'd buy those clear acrylic organizers and show how they'd empty their spices into aesthetically pleasing containers, empty their fruit out into these containers, things like that. To a certain extent, it makes sense. I also empty out my fruit into Tupperware containers because they last longer in Tupperware than they do in the plastic containers that they come in. But a lot of these restocks are completely unnecessary and are mostly only happening because it looks cuter or more pleasing. Some of these restock videos are very unsafe, especially if you have kids. On screen, there is a TikTok playing where the creator is emptying out their laundry products into glass containers. This includes Tide Pods. If you guys remember, a few years ago, there was a trend among teens where they were being challenged to eat Tide Pods. But that's not the only danger. If you have kids, which a lot of these influencers do have kids, switching your Tide Pods from the container that they come in to a container that is easy to open is downright irresponsible. And again, most of these people are doing this because it's aesthetically pleasing. Typically, laundry products come in containers that are hard to open because kids are more likely to eat said laundry products, especially the Tide Pods and the scent boosters. The scent boosters, to me, a full-grown adult, look like nerds. Imagine what it looks like to little kids. And Tide Pods are notoriously delicious looking. That probably makes no sense if you've never seen Tide Pods, but they look like candy, which is why Tide launched a new package that made it hard for kids to get into. You have to twist the top closed until it clicks, and the lid is purposefully wide so that kids can't get their hands around it. I mean, just reading the comments on this TikTok alone prove that even grown adults think that these things look appetizing. We know they're bad to drink, but regardless, they still look, dare I say, delicious. They look like something that should be edible. One comment reads, "I want to drink that softener, OMG," and it received 51,000 likes. Another comment reads, "Okay, but like, I want to eat that." Another one reads, "You're telling me it's not edible?" And another reads, "Strawberry milk, Dippin' Dots, gummies, and Fun Dip powder." If that's what it looks like to us, imagine what it looks like to small kids who can't tell the difference between strawberry milk and laundry detergent. Of course, it's important to educate kids on what is okay to eat and what's not okay to eat. It's also important that you keep these out of reach of children. But both children and pets tend to be very savvy when it comes to doing things they're not supposed to. A lot of people underestimate how smart kids can become when they want candy and know they're not supposed to eat it without first asking their parent or guardian. Same thing with pets. Now, pets don't have the foresight of thinking, this looks like candy and I want candy, but they can get into things just because. And if you put your laundry detergent in a container with only a corkscrew to secure it, pets, especially cats, can easily knock those over and cause spills. Spills that they then are likely to drink out of pure curiosity. Not every Restock influencer has kids or pets, especially now since the trend is so widespread, but it's still something to keep in mind. But anyway, another type of Restock overconsumer is the ice Restock influencer. These are people that buy many different ice molds to create unique ice shapes. There's cube and sphere, but there's also roses, rectangles, hearts, butterflies, and shockingly, ice molds designed to perfectly fit in your Stanley cup. But these ice restock influencers don't just put water in their ice molds. They put coffee, tea, fruits, juice, literally anything you can think of. Sometimes they even put soup in there. I'm not joking. On screen right now, there's a TikTok playing of a person who freezes soups and puts them in baking trays once they're ready to eat. Which, to be fair, is incredibly smart. That's something I would do because I often don't have energy to spare. I feel the same way about freezing coffee in ice molds or any other type of liquid. It's smart because when the ice cubes melt, they won't water down your drink. It's not something I would do personally because I kind of like watered down coffee and soda and juice, but it's still smart. The issue comes when ice molds are the only thing in your freezer. Clearly, this is a really big problem. On the one hand, these people are buying massive amounts of highly unnecessary things that will inevitably end up in landfills. On the other hand, this is incredibly unhealthy. And it's not just physically unhealthy, though it can be, like we saw with WaterTok and Mukbangs. But this is also mentally unhealthy, like we saw with ShowerTok. So let's get into that. If you ask the question, why do you guys buy so much? On any of the TikToks we just watched, you'll be met with responses similar to, it makes us happy. However, according to Psychology Today, quote, buying stuff can make you happy for a short time, but you will revert to needing another happiness boost by buying even more stuff, end quote. This is because when you buy something, you get a temporary dopamine boost. It's very similar to what happens when using dating apps and getting matches. This then can turn into dopamine chasing. Dopamine chasing, according to writer Tanya Shrivastava for onlymyhealth.com, says, quote, dopamine chasing refers to the compulsive seeking of activities or behaviors that provide instant gratification, leading to a surge in dopamine levels in the brain. This pursuit is driven by the desire to replicate pleasurable experiences, often resulting in a cycle of dependency and craving for more intense stimuli. In essence, is akin to chasing a fleeting high, constantly seeking the next dopamine rush without addressing underlying emotional needs or consequences. End quote. So all of these TikTokers that are purchasing things because it makes them happy don't realize that they're not actually truly happy. They're just substituting real happiness for addiction. And yes, this is an addiction, but what kind of addiction? Oniomania is more commonly known as shopping addiction. An article by verywellmind.com defines it as, quote, shopping addiction is a behavioral addiction that involves compulsive buying as a way to feel good and avoid negative feelings such as anxiety and depression, end quote. So, to everyone saying that buying this amount of products is something that makes them happy, I have to ask, are you actually happy, or are you just shopping to this extent because you're avoiding your problems? The article goes on to say, quote, "Audiomania is perhaps the most socially acceptable addiction. Think about it. We are surrounded by advertising that tells us that buying will make us happy. We are encouraged by politicians to spend as a way of boosting the economy. And for some of us, there is an allure of wanting what everyone else seems to have. Consumerism, by our own intentions or not, or some combination, has become a measure of social worth." End quote. And yeah, I find this to be the case, especially with clean girls and Restock TikTokers. Both are showing that they have the money to have a super clean and organized life. Clean girls are selling the illusion that they're cleaner than everyone else, and Restock TikTokers are selling the illusion that their house is cleaner than everyone else's. It might sound kind of ridiculous to you that being clean is a measure of social worth, but if you really think about it, being clean is a privilege. For starters, water isn't free. You need money to be able to clean yourself. You need a shower or a bath to be able to clean yourself, and that's often not free. Gyms have showers, but they require a purchase to their membership. If not gyms, then hotel or motel rooms, which you also need to pay for. Maybe you can get a free shower at a friend's place once or twice, but for the most part, you either have to pay for a water bill, a gym membership, or a hotel room to clean yourself. Plus, you have to buy at least body wash and shampoo. It's hard to be able to clean yourself on a surface level, and if you're able to shower daily, you're privileged. It's another level of privilege to be able to buy 60 different body scrubs, even if it was over time. Lots of people struggle to even buy food. They have to sign up for credit cards just to be able to eat. It's a massive privilege to buy highly unnecessary products, even if you also are taking out loans and credit cards to afford that lifestyle. But there are even more issues with all of these, and they are case specific, so let's get into that. For the people who mass buy products that are intended to clean themselves, I am especially concerned. Again, trigger warning for this one. If you have any triggers surrounding the need to clean yourself, please skip this section and take care of yourself and your mental health. Like I said, one of the more popular products to buy en masse are body scrubs. This to me points to something kind of like OCD, but I hesitate to call it OCD exactly, as I don't want to diagnose any one specific creator, though I don't doubt that some people who buy tons of body scrubs have OCD. I think the majority is not buying them out of a compulsive need to clean themselves. People with OCD who have a compulsion to clean themselves typically shower more than once a day. And typically, showering that many times leads to you having super dry and broken skin. I'm going to read a quote from AchieveConcierge.com, which is a mental health facility in San Diego, California. They say about the compulsion to stay clean, quote, "On the other end of the spectrum, you may find that some people who suffer from mental health issues like obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and anxiety treat cleanliness and hygiene like a ritual. OCD involves obsessions, distressing thoughts that you can't stop thinking about, and compulsions, rituals or actions you take to reduce your distress. These compulsive rituals may cause you more stress and strife in your day-to-day life because if you don't do them, you feel anxious, uncomfortable, and upset." End quote. Here is a quote by someone who has OCD and whose OCD affects the way they shower. In the article linked below, they list many different ways in which showering compulsions can present themselves. One of the ways is the fear of being contaminated. The author says, quote, "Some individuals with OCD utilize showers to decontaminate, especially after contact with certain feared contaminants, for example, after every bowel movement. Others utilize showers directly upon entering their homes to create a contamination barrier between outside and inside. Similarly, after the shower, some have an order for drying their bodies, especially to avoid contamination from dirty zones of the body to clean ones. Some may excessively dry to avoid moisture for sensory reasons or because moisture is correlated with bacteria." End quote. So, in my opinion, I think the majority of these influencers who buy tens of tree hut scrubs experience some kind of anxiety around being seen as dirty, and this anxiety only increased when the clean girl aesthetic made its debut on TikTok. And I'm not saying that OCD compulsions can't be formed out of anxiety, but I think the majority of these people who are posting their collections on TikTok are anxious and have a shopping addiction, not OCD. OCD is really rare. According to an article by neurolaunch.com, quote, most reliable sources consistently report a global prevalence rate between 1.5% and 3%. This means that in a room of 100 people, statistically, 2 to 3 individuals are likely to be experiencing OCD symptoms, end quote. And it goes without saying that there are people that go undiagnosed due to reasons such as masking or the individual with OCD not believing that they have OCD. I might fall into the latter category, but in general, it's a rare thing to be diagnosed with OCD, which makes it hard for me to believe that hundreds of people with OCD not only look very similar and fit into a similar demographic, but also all have a compulsion to shower frequently. I'm not saying that OCD compulsions can't change throughout life. In fact, from my research, that is pretty common among people with OCD. Your compulsions tend to change depending on the people you surround yourself with, the media you consume, etc. So it's not out of the question to assume that a few people with OCD can fuel each other's compulsions and put themselves in a bit of a compulsion echo chamber. But what I am saying is that a lot of these women posting their collections of cleaning products are very similar looking. Though it's not unrealistic to think that people with OCD can fuel each other's compulsions, to me, it's unrealistic to think that a bunch of 15 to 30-year-old middle to upper class, typically white women in the United States, all with OCD, got together and created a community to fuel their one specific compulsion. I think this is just a matter of women seeing something trend and wanting to be a part of it. And then once they were part of the trend, they got sucked into the fear-mongering that exists currently on the clean girl side of TikTok. They don't want to be smelly, so they get caught up in buying more and more things to hide their body odor, when their body odor was never an issue to begin with. I actually talked about this and kind of predicted this was going to happen when this aesthetic first started. Like I said, the aesthetic first started when celebrities were exposing their own hygiene routines, and it got started about 2 to 3 years ago. Around that time, I posted a TikTok reminding everyone with depression or anxiety that the comments were being directed at celebrities and not normal people who couldn't afford therapy or antidepressants. And this was because I knew that people with mental health issues might take those comments personally and either feel worse about themselves or go overboard with cleaning themselves. And unfortunately, there are so many people online who struggle with depression and anxiety. And I think a lot of people have severe depression and anxiety. I do think depression and anxiety can increase in severity if you're spending a lot of your time online. Doom scrolling is also a form of dopamine chasing, and dopamine chasing does increase the severity of anxiety and depression, like any other addiction does, given that some addictions are often used to ignore mental health issues. But this level of anxiety and depression can make you more susceptible to doing things for others. Especially with anxiety, you're more likely to do things because you want people to perceive you in a positive light. And again, this increases around trends. You're more likely to follow trends if you have social anxiety because you don't want to be seen as weird. Which, by the way, that's a topic for another episode. But once you have the perfect environment, you'd be surprised at how many people can be influenced to do some of the weirdest things. In the case of clean girls who stock up on shower items, I think it was a perfect mix of intentional targeting, anxiety, and appeal. These women and girls were intentionally targeted and their fears were preyed upon, making them anxious to show up in a certain way. The appealing trend was sold as a solution to their worries of being smelly. These people probably are really scared of being seen as dirty. There's been a lot of talk in these corners of the internet about how you can reduce your body odor, and this is not a new conversation. People have always been trying to not smell bad since before ancient Egypt. But it does become a problem when it becomes an obsession and when you're actively applying things on your body that you really shouldn't. A big example of this is how companies like Vagisil or Summer's Eve target vulnerable women into applying scented stuff on their genitalia and make them feel ashamed of their natural scent. Or how these vulnerable women are being told to eat pineapple so that they don't smell bad down there. On screen right now, I'm showing screenshots of 2 different Pinterest posts I came across of 2 different creators recommending 2 different recipes on how you can make your cookie smell and taste better. And this all can be a symptom of anxiety and fear of being perceived a certain way. These vulnerable women have a fear of being made fun of or rejected by their sexual partners, and these overconsumer TikTokers have a fear of smelling bad when they're out in public. It's not a bad thing to not want to smell bad. Like I said, it's practically human nature to want to smell clean. But the issue comes when you're overdoing it. A shower routine should be simple, just a shampoo, conditioner, face wash, and body wash. And then afterwards, a simple lotion to hydrate your body is all that you need. If you have eczema, you might need a dermatologist prescribed lotion. And if you have body acne, maybe some salicylic acid. If you want to brighten areas of your body, maybe some glycolic acid or a brightening mask. After your shower, some deodorant and perfume can help you smell nice. That's only 9 products max, not 100. And then there's the issue of how these people will get through all these products. Are they overusing these products, or will they end up throwing these products away as soon as they expire? Because a lot of these products do have an expiration date. So they'll either hurt and break their skin, or they'll fill landfills with a ton of products they shouldn't have bought in the first place. It's a lose-lose situation. It is very concerning to me to see just how many people fear being seen as smelly, especially when a simple shower routine should be enough to not make them smell bad. It does point to a deeper problem, but again, I hesitate to call it OCD. OCD is a repetitive, ritualistic behavior that's done out of necessity. But there are other diagnoses where anxiety is merely a symptom and not the foundation of it, like OCD. Body dysmorphic disorder is one that comes to mind. I think my point is, if you find yourself feeling an urge to buy tons of body washes, body scrubs, lotions, shampoos, or anything of the sort, you have a problem. If you need to buy 10 different shelves for your shower, you have a problem. You're not buying those things to make you feel happy, you're doing it because of some other reason, and pretending like this isn't a problem will only hurt you more. Same thing goes for buying tons of different teeth products to keep your mouth clean. If you're always brushing your teeth after a meal and you don't have braces, maybe there's a deeper issue going on than just, I want to feel clean. If you're exfoliating your body every time you shower, there is definitely a bigger issue at play. Whether that deeper issue is anxiety, OCD, body dysmorphic disorder, shopping addiction, some other diagnosis, or a mix of those is up to you to figure out. Like I said, African net sponges are already an exfoliating tool, so why do you feel the need to double it? Is it actually something you truly, from the bottom of your heart, believe is normal and what other people do? Why do you feel such a need to go these lengths to be seen a certain way? What do you think is so wrong with you that you need to physically scrub it away twice? And more importantly, do you think scrubbing it away is a feasible thing to do? Do you think that's a sustainable thing to do, not just for your wallet, but for your skin? It doesn't matter how much you moisturize. If you're exfoliating excessively, that will start to show up on your skin. So who are you actually doing this for? And again, a lot of these creators are women. These women are being told that they're dirty and they need to deeply cleanse themselves to be accepted into society. And a lot of you might not see it that way, but that's what's happening. Brands like Tree Hut are encouraging this behavior. On their website, they have a section where they tell you to post your own collection and tag them in order to be featured on their website. It is so incredibly sad to see and witness, and I hope each and every one of these people gets the proper help that they so desperately need. I saw a TikTok by a Native American creator a couple years ago named Ashinabe. It was a while ago, so forgive me for not linking that specific TikTok in the description. I will leave his account down below though. But he made a really great point to say a lot of these companies sell you these products that ruin your skin barrier because that way they can then sell you more products to repair that skin barrier that they destroyed. And that's what's happening with all of these influencers and the comments that they get. They're destroying their skin barrier and then slathering hydrating products on top of it as some sort of too small to actually do anything significant band-aid. But let's move on to WaterTok. This to me is not all that bad, like I said before. It just feels like a plain and simple shopping addiction. Now, addiction is not simple, I recognize that, but I don't think there's anything deeper going on than just addiction. And I say this in general, there's always the chance that individual creators have something else going on, but in general, I do think this is a shopping addiction. However, there is anxiety at play in this. And again, this anxiety is more social. If you go into the comments of any creator in the WaterTok community, you'll often see them replying to comments that call them out. These comments will usually say, "This is juice," or "This is not water." And these creators will reply something along the lines of, "You're wrong, this is water." I mean, the first WaterTok TikTok I showed was a video reply to a commenter saying, "This is not water, this is just juice." To me, it's clear that these creators don't want to be seen as unhealthy. That's why they keep telling themselves that they're in fact drinking water. It's a healthier way of consuming sugary drinks. In reality, though, it's not all that healthy. The Skittles flavor packets that were shown and used in the first TikTok still have calories, and although they don't have a lot of sugar, the sugar does add up. The nutrition facts say 0% added sugars, but that doesn't mean there's absolutely zero sugar. Brands in the United States are not obligated to tell you the exact number of grams. The FDA allows companies to round down or round up. So, although the label says 0 grams of sugar, most likely it has somewhere around 0.5 grams of sugar, but the company legally can kind of lie. Now, 0.5 grams of sugar is not much. It's definitely not more than what soda has. But if you're adding multiple flavor packets to your water and you're only drinking flavored drinks or water, that adds up. Plain water does not have any calories or sugar or food coloring for that matter. Flavor sticks do. Flavor sticks also have sodium, fat, and cholesterol. Like I said before, this is a great way to wean yourself off sugary drinks. If you're a regular at Swig, or if the only drink to ever be poured into your Stanley cup is soda, drinking flavored water is a great way to reduce the amount of soda you're drinking and increase the amount of water you're drinking. I have absolutely no problem with that. And to those creators that got into WaterTok because their doctors told them to reduce the amount of soda they were drinking and they listened, I commend you for taking steps to be healthier. It takes a lot of willpower to get over an addiction, no matter how insignificant or unserious it may seem. But I do have concerns when it comes to adding so many syrups and flavor packets into your drinks thinking they're healthy. It doesn't matter how big the zero sugar letters are on these additives. They can still be pretty unhealthy for you. Sometimes ingredients are hidden in the ingredient list by simply using a more scientific name of an ingredient that has a more colloquial name. According to an article by the Cleveland Clinic, they warn that sugar alcohols in flavor packets like xylitol, erythritol, and sorbitol can cause a ton of health issues that can lead to blood clots, strokes, and other heart-related issues. Food colorings can also be bad. They have been shown to affect your mood. Some blue food colorings can make you feel sad, some yellow food colorings can make you feel manic, and some red food colorings can make you feel angry. But those aren't the only ingredients you have to watch out for. Artificial sweeteners, caffeine, and electrolytes are also ingredients that you have to look out for. You might be thinking, how are electrolytes bad? Well, anything in excess is bad regardless of how good it is for you. According to an article by health.com, people with kidney issues or high blood pressure should stay away from drinking too many electrolytes, as drinking too many can increase those issues. Dr. William Queel told health.com, quote, taking in too many electrolytes without enough water can be dangerous, end quote. Another doctor, Dr. Kapoor, said that potassium is the most dangerous supplement to have in excess because of its, quote, ability to cause fatal irregular heart rhythms, end quote. Not only that, but electrolytes and electrolyte packets typically have high levels of sodium, which can lead to, quote, high blood pressure, swelling, or heart failure, end quote. The amount of electrolytes you should take in really depends on your exercise level and overall lifestyle, which is why Gatorade is advertised towards athletes, not sedentary people. If you're sitting at your office cubicle for 8 hours a day, you probably don't need electrolytes added into your water, unless you're dangerously dehydrated, in which case you need to get to a hospital. But drinking at least 60 ounces of plain water should help you stay hydrated. So it is crucial that you're not buying flavor packets and syrups just because your WaterTok mutual said it was delicious. If you're actually trying to improve your health, you do need to be aware of these ingredients. Sure, they're diluted by the water and ice that you're adding, but it's still important to be careful. I'm also worried because these people are buying so many products just for their water to taste good. And as was noted in the comments, so many of these people are using up plastic water bottles. Now, I don't know if this is just the way I was raised, but to me, bottled water is for emergencies only. We keep bottled water just in case, and every few years we will drink up the water we have and buy a new case of water, which if you stockpile bottled water, they do expire after a while, so make sure you're not keeping it for years and years. But I don't get how or why you would buy a huge case of bottled water and only drink from that when you can buy yourself a Brita and fill your 40-ounce cup faster than you can with bottled water. Brita has different levels of water filters. If you're broke, buy a Brita pitcher. It runs for about $20 to $40, but it's a one-time purchase and will last you a very long time. If you can afford to spend more money, buy a water filtration system for your home. You don't need to use bottled water every time you're doing a water recipe. Again, I don't doubt that some of them only use bottled water because of rage bait. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these TikTokers use bottled water only for their videos, but it still sends the wrong message to their audience. Thankfully, comments are calling this out, which I bet prevents people from copying that particular detail, but I am worried for those trying to replicate the lives of these TikTokers because they truly believe it would make them as happy as the creator they're watching pretends to be. And I won't lie to you guys, as someone who loves plain water, it really does piss me off when I hear people talking about water recipes. Water shouldn't have a recipe. It's a simple thing. It's literally the simplest thing ever. We've been doing it since we evolved as a species. Call it what it actually is. Flavored water. It reminds me of those cooking videos of people using only water as their ingredient. I'll play one on screen if I can find it, but this is what I think of when I hear the words water recipe. If you're listening, it's just a video of someone cooking with only water. It's very theatrical, and you'll see them shave ice into a pan full of water or mix water with water. It's all a joke if you're curious, and it's meant to be funny, but that's what I think about when I hear water recipe. I think it'll just be a sarcastic video of someone cooking with only water. But anyway, I will keep the rest of my comments to myself because I truly do not want any WaterTok creators to dig themselves further into this hole. I am concerned for those creators that simply cannot accept that their water recipes do not constitute as water. They will die on that hill, and that is a weird hill to die on. But I do think it stems from the fear of being seen as unhealthy. Water is supposed to be healthy, so as long as the recipe has some water, it qualifies as water, right? For your edification, it does not qualify as water if you're adding ingredients to it. But there should be no shame to that. It's an inherently good thing that you're trying to drink water despite you not liking the taste. It's an inherently good thing to hydrate yourself. There's no need to call your drinks water when they're not water. They're still a healthier alternative to soda. You're doing a good thing by not drinking soda and choosing to drink something healthier to both replace soda and still hydrate you. You shouldn't feel the need to lie to yourself and your audience. I understand, as I've stated multiple times, that some creators may call their recipes water just for clicks and views. But I also know that there are people that truly have convinced themselves that what they're drinking is water. And that's where I start to get worried. Not because I'm mad that they're expanding the definition of water, though I can't lie, that does play like a 1% role in this, but because it means that they're truly and fully deep in this community, and any and all concerns about their spending habits or their health will be ignored as hate comments. There is actual worry and concern, like I mentioned before, about the ingredients of these flavor additives, especially those that are marketed as fun flavors. But a lot of these people are too deep in this community that me saying, hey, this might be unhealthy for you, will be marked as a hate comment. It's not a hate comment, it's an actual concern that I actually have. All in all, though, it's not the most harmful community if you ignore all of the plastic that they're buying and then throwing away. I don't know about you, but I can't ignore that, and I hope that community does make an effort to buy less individually wrapped, serving size, tiny flavor packets and start using more fruits in their flavored water. I also hope that community shifts to using less bottled water and more Brita. Hey, maybe some can even get a Brita sponsorship, who knows? For the Stanley Cups, I think this is a very extreme case of using small purchases as a way to ignore your growing and concerning mental health issues. This is not normal. I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is absolutely not normal. Being a Stanley Cup collectionist is one thing. I'm not saying there's something wrong with you if all you want to do is find and collect cool Stanley Cup designs, but I do think those who buy accessories for their Stanley Cups are going overboard. Again, I think a lot of the influencers who purchase trays for their Stanley Cups are just rage baiting and doing it for views, but there are some influencers who are probably doing it because they think it's normal and they think that doing it makes them happy, and that to me is so sad. The fighting in store and getting in long lines, though, is a different thing. Again, it reminds me of how Black Friday used to be. Black Friday was notorious for drawing large crowds of very rowdy, very angsty, and very eager people. People used to camp out at stores for days just to get a good deal. And this is what's happening with Stanley Cups. And I think it's because both Black Friday events and Stanley Cups are using the same kind of marketing tactics. If you watch Kiki Chanel's video on Stanley Cups, you'll see her and people in her comments wondering why the Stanley Cups brand doesn't release more Stanley Cups in anticipation for the release. I said this before, but I need to remind you, these people are lining up for days for a release of a special edition of the Stanley Cups. They're not lining up for a massive discount. And with every release, there are fights, stealing, and long lines. And with every release, in under a few hours, the Stanley Cups completely disappear. So why isn't the brand releasing more cups to make sure the store does not run out within a few hours? It is absolutely by design. The reason people would line up outside of stores for days during Black Friday is because the sale was only happening for that one day, and there was a limited stock of everything. I remember growing up and going to these Black Friday sales. My family usually went at 11 a.m. because we weren't that desperate, but even at 11 a.m., all the stores looked completely different from how they normally looked. I remember going into a Sears and going into the landline phone section and seeing all of the phones gone. And this was right as landline phones were becoming unpopular to have. They still managed to sell out thanks to the marketing surrounding Black Friday. But that's just a sign that the marketing was very effective. Stores would sell everything at least 40% off, but only for a single day. So everyone felt like they had to camp out so that they didn't miss out on the sale. And that's the marketing strategy that Stanley Cups use. People who buy tons of Stanley Cups have a fear of missing out, and because most of the releases from Stanley Cups are limited edition, the fear of missing out is heightened. And just because I know this may come up, I'm excluding resellers from this. Resellers are just an entirely different beast that I will not get into right now. But resellers typically buy up a ton of Stanley Cups during every release so that they can resell them at a truly outrageous price. For reference, the most popular type of Stanley Cup, a 40-ounce tumbler, retails for $45 normally, and this is a normal Stanley Cup. Their collabs with other brands, like for example their collab with Love Shack Fancy, retails for $60 for a 40-ounce tumbler. So resellers will buy 5 or 10 of these and list them on places like Depop or eBay for hundreds of dollars for a single tumbler. It really depends on how sought after the collection is. The Starbucks collection was really popular, so resellers were selling that for a lot more. But I'm not talking about resellers. I'm talking about people who have fallen victim to the scarcity marketing and are buying a new Stanley Cup every time a new design is released. These people truly believe that they need the new design, so they line up because they have a fear that they will not get it. They're willing to fight others for a Stanley Cup because they don't want to miss out. They want to have the cool new thing because they want to be seen as a cool person. And Stanley's entire marketing revolves around that. I mean, if it didn't, people wouldn't have started renting Stanley Cups for selfies. Stanley Cups have become the epitome of a measure of social worth. If you have one, your social points are higher than those who don't. And the only way you can collect your social points is if you post a picture of your Stanley Cup. Stanley as a brand has tons of money, especially now, and they can absolutely afford to make a ton more special edition cups. But that would defeat the purpose of their scarcity marketing. And if there were enough special edition cups to go around, they wouldn't sell as much. This is why it's important to know when you're being sold to and how. Obviously, the other side of the Stanley Cup coin comes with people buying accessories for their cups. It started off as cute. It was like stickers for your water bottles, but then it just evolved into something so interesting to witness. It started when emotional support water bottles started trending. This trend was just a group of young girls saying, "My water bottle has been with me for years and I've developed an emotional attachment to it." Then people started sharing how they decorated their emotional support water bottles. And for reference, this trend was not exclusive to Stanley Cups. People with any brand of reusable water bottles were participating in this trend. And I understood the sentiment. If you're using reusable water bottles as intended, they can last a really long time, even if they're cheaper. You really only need 1 or 2 at most. So developing an emotional attachment to your reusable water bottle is not too far-fetched. A lot of the time, it's not a severe emotional attachment, it's just a feeling of this water bottle has been with me through ups and downs, and I'll be sad if I ever have to buy a new one, but it's not something that would stop me from doing my regular activities. But from this trend came people decorating their water bottles, and because Stanleys were already so highly coveted, this trend had the Stanley Cup community in a chokehold, and in a way, it still does. The trend was all about taking your water bottle with you through all the tough times and all the good times. What better way to do that than to add a snack tray right on top of it? Now your water bottle can watch movies with you. To me, it really is a case of intentional marketing towards vulnerable people that probably are lonely, and it is really, really sad to me. Okay, and now we get into mukbangs. Trigger warning again for this one, I will be talking about eating disorders and disordered eating, so if you don't want to hear that, please skip to the next section. Extreme mukbangers, in my opinion, fall into two different categories. One category is the category that Jelly Bean Sweets and others like her fell into, and the other category is eating disorder. I'm going to talk about the eating disorder category first because it's the most concerning to me. I talked about this in my Adopted Sister Did Not Get the Help She Deserved episode, but there are people in this life who, very unfortunately, as children, did not get to eat as much as they should have. Sometimes it's because of poverty, sometimes it's because they had abusive parents or neglectful parents, sometimes it's because their babysitter did not have the knowledge on how to feed them and their parents were at work all the time out of necessity. The reasons can vary, but these kids usually grow up to eat a lot when they have the freedom to do so. The opposite thing can happen when a kid grows up with too much to eat. They'll grow up and decide that they don't want to eat unhealthy food anymore, so they'll start eating healthy, sometimes to an unhealthy extent. But kids who grew up in homes where food was missing, or even kids who grew up in homes that did not allow any kind of unhealthy food, tend to go a little crazy when they get money of their own to spend on whatever food they want to eat. It's like when college students move out of their parents' home and start drinking everything alcoholic in sight. They've left their parents' watchful or abusive eye and have the freedom to eat whatever it is they want and don't know self-control and have never been taught it. Or they've left the restrictive environment and no longer have any kind of extreme restrictions. It also reminds me of why people tend to say that diets don't work. People say that because when the diet ends, the dieter tends to eat more than they used to before they went on a diet. It goes without saying that people that grew up with this mindset have a hard time leaving it, and we must show them compassion. So that's one thing. Maybe these influencers grew up in homes where food was lacking and they decided to film their freedom. The other thing is obviously a full-on eating disorder that they are not looking to get help for because the internet is encouraging them to keep going. I don't want to diagnose any of these creators with anything, but I am concerned for their audience watching this content and being influenced to eat like this. If you go into the comment section of Jelly Bean Sweets, you'll see a lot of people saying things like, "The way you're eating the food makes me crave it," or "I've been craving Taco Bell for so long," or "This is making me want to order some Taco Bell." They're also seeing just how famous she's gotten and probably have had thoughts of, "I could do this exact same thing and gain 2.1 million followers on TikTok." I know I have. I also have to say that you don't have to be diagnosed with an eating disorder to have disordered eating habits, although they sometimes do go hand in hand. Eating disorders are a more severe type of disordered eating, and they stem from something going on mentally. Disordered eating can stem from different outside factors, such as, like I said, poverty, lack of access to proper nutrition, seeing influencers eat a certain way, etc. Or it can be mental. It's a case of every eating disorder is disordered eating, but not all disordered eating is an eating disorder. And dietitian Caroline Young says, quote, "Eating disorders are complex, life-threatening illnesses that affect people of all genders, ages, races, and sizes," end quote. Another dietitian, Dr. Victoria Whittington, says, quote, "An eating disorder is a mental health condition that is characterized by a severe and persistent disturbance in eating behaviors and is associated with distressing thoughts and emotions. An eating disorder is a clinical diagnosis," end quote. And then she lists anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, and other specified feeding or eating disorder as different diagnoses that you can be diagnosed with if you have an eating disorder. Disordered eating is classified as a less severe form of an eating disorder. The article, which will be linked below, says, quote, "Disordered eating, while still serious, is typically not as severe or as dangerous as an eating disorder. Still, it can cause similar issues like anxiety, food preoccupation, and nutrient deficiency. Disordered eating can certainly lead to an eating disorder if left unchecked. While these behaviors can begin seemingly innocently, they can escalate quickly and severely," end quote. And this is why I'm worried for the rise of these extreme mukbangers. Their audience tends to be susceptible and easily influenced. What's to stop a young girl from copying them in hopes of becoming TikTok famous? Seeing all the support for jelly bean sweets might only encourage them to do this. And this isn't an invitation to send hate to jelly bean sweets. That will only encourage jelly bean sweets to keep going. But it is important to raise awareness to this situation, and if you ever come across an account of someone eating unhealthy amounts of food, it's crucial for you to treat the situation with kindness and provide alternate methods to whatever goal it is the creator is trying to achieve. If they're trying to become TikTok or internet famous, suggest other paths they can go down. That's really the only goal people who film themselves eating this amount of food have. And this leads us to what happened to Jelly Bean Sweets. Quick disclaimer though, she is not the only creator that went down this path. There are a ton of other mukbang TikTokers, but I cannot name them off the top of my head because I simply don't interact with that content. However, I'm sure if you search up mukbang on TikTok, you will come across other creators. Anyway, Jelly Bean Sweets used to post just dance content. She was a dancer, and I think she still dances occasionally, but she was also a pescatarian. Her diet was pretty healthy, but one day she decided to eat chicken wings from Wingstop, and that changed everything for her. The TikTok that blew her account up was the first time she ate Wingstop, and it was her first ever viral video. From there, her mukbangs got more and more messy and included more and more food. She also started doing a thing everyone recognized her for. It set her apart from other TikTok mukbangers, and that was how she drank her drinks. She would grab her drink, stab a straw in it, and then take a big sip. Suddenly, everyone was trying to recreate it, and then it became a trend to try and eat like her in front of others. I will show TikToks of people trying to drink like her, but I won't include TikToks of people trying to eat like her because I don't want to subject you to that against your will. If you want to watch that though, be my guest. Just type eating like jelly bean sweets in the TikTok search bar and it will lead you right to it. Quick warning though, it can be very difficult to get through because of the way she's eating and the noises. So if you are sensitive to noises or you just don't want to watch someone eating messily, don't go on her account. But anyway, because of this newfound fame, this 20-year-old woman started getting requests from viewers. I will link Kiki Chanel's video of her covering the situation since this episode is not a Jelly Bean Sweets expose, but these requests are sexual in nature. Like I said before, they're done by typically men who get off sexually on seeing someone destroy their body with unhealthy eating. And they will pay money to watch people like Jelly Bean Sweets eat in the messiest way and eat the most unhealthy food they can find. It's a kink called feederism. And I think money is the main motivator for Jelly Bean Sweets and any other mukbanger that has millions of followers. They're willing to destroy their health and their metabolism for money, and the thing that keeps them going is the money. I don't know if any of these extreme mukbangers have had sponsorships, though it wouldn't surprise me, but I do believe that a lot of them are getting a ton of money from TikTok itself, thanks to the amount of views that they have. And some take requests, so it'll be really hard to get them to stop. Nikocado Avocado only stopped because he didn't actually want to die, despite what he said in a lot of his videos. Also, this is off topic, but Nikocado Avocado is not the genius y'all paint him to be. I'm just saying. He wasn't running a study, he just didn't want to stop making money for the 2 years he was working on losing weight. But that's besides the point. The saddest part to me though is that a lot of mukbangers' audiences only follow them because they're seen as a train wreck, not because they're actually interested in their lives. A lot of these mukbangers have been turned into lol cows, and that is very, very sad to me. But now let's talk about Restock TikTokers. These TikTokers, I think, are the ones most likely suffering from a scarcity mindset. Often, Restock TikTokers are, like I said before, stay-at-home moms. There are exceptions to this, especially now that it's become a trend and an aesthetic, but the trend really got started among mom groups that hope to keep their homes clean and organized. The fridge restock TikTok I showed earlier is an anomaly among this trend. It was a creator stocking her fridge with fairly healthy food. She had fruits and veggies, yogurts, and actual real food. But normally, and especially among stay-at-home moms with young kids, restock videos will include mostly snacks that are easily accessible to their kids. And again, I talked about this kind of thing in another podcast episode. If you haven't watched it, I'll give you a quick summary. It was a Reddit post about a woman whose spoiled adopted sister wore a dress in a color she wasn't supposed to wear. In that Reddit post, the OP described how her sister was spoiled by their parents, and I guessed it was because the adopted sister had lived through neglect. And I said it in that episode, but sometimes parents will spoil their kids because of past trauma. In the case of the adopted sister, it was past trauma that she experienced. But in the case of most families, kids are spoiled because of the past trauma of the parents. The parents experienced either neglect or a lack of resources and have made a promise to themselves that their kids will never experience that scarcity. Coming from immigrant parents, I can completely understand that mindset. However, that approach is often taken too far. It is amazing that the new parents are coming into parenting with the hopes of providing good things to their kids. You should want to provide for your kids. I encourage that kind of thinking, and I think people who aren't in good financial standing shouldn't have kids out of their own free will. And I specify that because there are circumstances where having kids, despite being in poverty, can't be prevented. And it also starts to sound like eugenics when you say poor people shouldn't have kids. I'm saying people who know their kids will suffer because of the lack of resources, yet still make the active and conscious decision to have multiple kids, should probably be the ones that shouldn't have kids. I hope that makes sense. But regardless, that's besides the point. My point here is that it's an inherently good thing to wait to have kids until you can provide for them. But that does not mean you should then spoil them with unhealthy food. I'm not saying that having a go-gurt every once in a while is bad, but I am saying that having easily accessible, sugary snacks in reach of your kids will encourage them to have bad eating habits. And that's what these restock influencers are kind of promoting. Again, sometimes as a stay-at-home mom, you just want your kids to stop bothering you and you'll give them candy or an Oreo yogurt to get them to shut up, and that's fine. But it should all be within moderation. And if you're keeping these snacks within reach, your kids will not be eating that in moderation. Especially if you have multiple kids and you're constantly occupied and can't keep your eyes on all your kids at all times. Now, again, I'm not discounting the fact that some of these influencers are doing these videos just for views and money. Maybe they film themselves stocking their snack drawer for the video, and then once the video is done, they hide all the snacks because they know that their kids will finish the snack drawer within seconds. But the main issue comes with their audience and the message they're sending their audience. Believe it or not, some people cannot consume content responsibly. Tons of people have trouble discerning what's for them and what's not for them. And tons more people start changing their lives to reflect the lives of their favorite influencers, regardless of whether they have plans to post content online or not. And sometimes this can be beneficial. Nara Smith is a really popular influencer that people are aspiring to be more like, and although I said in my last podcast episode that she is perpetuating the idea that women should stay at home and cook for their husbands and kids, she is also encouraging people to cook more. She and Teeny inspired me to cook more. I used to just bake, but after watching Nara and Teeny, I wanted to cook more. She makes meals at home to help with her eczema, and is constantly sharing recipes that help her. Of course, they're interwoven with joke videos she does, like sometimes she'll make a TikTok of her making sunscreen, so it is hard to discern what's truly something she'd eat versus something she's doing just for shits and giggles. But this is an example of how sometimes following what your favorite influencer does can be beneficial for your health. But most times, because most influencers are only doing things for views and money, copying the lifestyle of your favorite influencers can be very detrimental. And a lot of people lack the critical thinking skills to decide what's healthy for them to follow and what's unhealthy for them to follow, or even what's realistic and unrealistic for them to follow. It's unrealistic to buy multiple acrylic organizers and constantly have your fridge full for the average American. It's unrealistic to buy 40 different Tree Hut scrubs. All of this is unrealistic, but some people either don't care or don't have the foresight to recognize that. Something that I haven't talked about, but that I'm sure would be brought up if I never talked about it, is Sephora Kids. Kiki Chanel also made a video of Sephora Kids, but I think Sephora Kids don't fit under any overconsumption category just yet, though they are being set up for failure by their parents, and I wouldn't be surprised if they grew up to be any of the above categories. The reason I don't want to include them in any category above is because they can't consent to spending the amount of money they would need to spend in order to have the products that they have. They're not spending money on anything. Their parents are the ones that fit into the overconsumption category. And I do think it's that same I want my kid to have it all mentality. If you're confused and you don't know what a Sephora Kid is, a Sephora Kid is a child, typically a young girl, who has hundreds of skincare products. Skincare products that are doing more harm than good for the skin of these children who haven't even gone through puberty yet. They're using retinol, salicylic acid, and vitamin C on non-existent skin issues. Retinol is usually used as an anti-aging product. Salicylic acid is usually used to combat acne, and vitamin C is usually used to reduce wrinkles, dark spots, and acne. These are all issues kids don't struggle with. Sure, dermatologists recommend you start using retinol before your wrinkles show up on your face. Typically, at 25 years old is the recommended age to start using retinol, but you shouldn't use it 20 whole years before, and that's not an exaggeration. Kids as young as 5 are using these kinds of products. And again, brands are doing nothing to stop this. Sephora isn't stopping kids from entering their store. That's a decision that individual stores have to take. Drunk Elephant isn't adding warning labels to their products to stop kids from using them. In fact, I think they started a brand catered to kids because they saw just how willing parents were to spend money on skincare products for their kids. Kids don't need any of this, yet because they're seeing their favorite influencers promote skincare brands like Drunk Elephant and Sol de Janeiro, they want all the products they can get their hands on. And parents are choosing to listen because of this skewed idea they have that their kids deserve the world. It's not an issue to love your kids and believe they deserve good things, but buying them skincare products is not a good thing. Letting them be influenced by skincare influencers is not a good thing. They're going to grow up believing that they need to fit certain beauty standards and aesthetics. They're going to grow up believing that they need all the products their favorite brand launches. And worst of all, they're going to grow up with the worst attention span ever. None of this is beneficial to your kids. All of it is very detrimental to their growth. And this is ultimately the issue and why I don't want to classify children as overconsumers. They are the most susceptible to influencer marketing and the influencer gasp, yet they don't have control over their own finances. Someone else, be it a parent, a sibling, or a grandparent, has to buy them everything they want. And by doing that, that is setting them up for failure. Anyone who buys kids every little thing they want, no matter how expensive, is setting that kid up to have a shopping addiction. You're substituting actual happiness for dopamine chasing, but you're doing it on behalf of someone who still doesn't understand how the world works or how money works. At least adults who have a shopping addiction and dopamine chase were able to learn about how money works. Children haven't had that opportunity yet. Another thing that I know would get brought up if I never mentioned it in this video is the topic of hoarders. Though I don't doubt that there is overlap between people who have a shopping addiction and hoarders, I don't think they're one and the same. Hoarders are hoarders because they keep the things they buy or obtain. Overconsumers are overconsumers because of how many things they buy. Some hoarders don't buy the things they keep, or they don't buy things in excess. They just have a hard time getting rid of things due to an emotional attachment, guilt, or the thought that you'll need a certain item in the future. Some overconsumers don't keep the things they buy. According to an article by mayoclinic.org, quote, hoarding disorder is an ongoing difficulty throwing away or parting with possessions because you believe that you need to save them. You may experience distress at the thought of getting rid of the items. You gradually keep or gather a huge number of items regardless of their actual value, end quote. And I find this to be in contrast to what a lot of overconsumption TikTokers do. Most overconsumption TikTokers are only participating in the overconsumption trend because they believe it brings them social value, and as such, will often buy exclusively expensive things, especially within certain communities. Often, it's not a matter of this is a good type of product to have, here are some cheaper alternatives. It's a matter of this product is expensive and promises to make you seem more expensive, so you should buy that specific product. That's why brands are trending and not product types. I do think overconsumption is being manufactured as we speak. However, like I said, I don't doubt that there's overlap. If you find yourself getting angry when others tell you to reduce the amount of products you have, if you have a hard time decluttering and getting rid of things that you don't use, if you're always buying new things that you know you have no space for, if you feel like you need to save these products just in case, if you feel an emotional connection to a lot of your items, or if you're having trouble organizing the products you're always buying, you might also be a hoarder and you should get help for that. I think it's important to recognize that a lot of overconsumption trends are by design. If exfoliating your skin in excess was actually a good thing, Tree Hut wouldn't be the only brand trending. If drinking water was the sole focus of Stanley Cup influencers, they wouldn't just showcase Stanley Cups. These influencers are not trying to better your life. They're trying to get you to buy something. Otherwise, specific brands wouldn't be trending, and instead, the trends would be more vague. If the Stanley Cup trend was actually about drinking water, any reusable water bottle would trend, not just Stanley's. If the ShowerTok trends were actually about just cleansing yourself, actually useful products would trend, not just gimmicky Sol de Janeiro or Tree Hut products. And more importantly, the creators participating in the trends wouldn't try to make their collections look so aesthetically pleasing to the point that others want to replicate it. They would just show things like normal people. And that is my biggest issue about overconsumption TikTok. Everything is perfectly manicured to make vulnerable people believe that they need all of these unnecessary things to be happy. Or in the case of extreme mukbangs, viewers are being sold a lie that if you destroy your body, you'll become rich in a matter of weeks. Most people who keep up with overconsumption trends really only are doing it because they're trend followers and unfortunately can't think for themselves. They see something that's really popular and immediately try and change their entire personality to revolve around that trend. This is why you'll see commenters on TikTok asking, can we please make XYZ trend again? They truly believe they can't wear or do something without the approval of people on TikTok. In conclusion, none of this is worth it at all. Destroying your mental and physical health for the small dopamine rush is not worth it. It's also worth mentioning that if you find yourself taking out loans so that your house, bathroom, shower, or kitchen can look like this, you have a problem that goes way beyond "this makes me happy." I need everyone who lives like this to truly ask themselves if they are happier. Does buying multiple body scrubs actually make you happy? Like, truly and fully? Chances are the answer is no. Another good question to ask yourself if you live like this is, great, what now? You have 60 different Tree Hut scrubs. You've lined up for every Stanley release. You're only drinking flavored water. You're filming yourself eating massive amounts of food and making yourself sick. You've never repeated an outfit ever. What now? What's next for you? If you're truly happy after buying all that, it should make your life easier, right? Now your mind is clear and you can focus on your hobbies, right? Are you doing that? Do you have more free time? are you less stressed? Chances are you're not. Chances are you're ignoring your mobile banking app and pretending like it doesn't exist. Chances are you're looking to apply for another credit card in hopes of making it big on whatever corner of TikTok you're on. There's nothing wrong with buying things that make you happy, but within reason. Stationery is something that makes me happy. I love buying new pens and notebooks, but I have a ton that I don't use, and I know that buying more will only make me more stressed, and I don't have anywhere to put them. I don't have space to add a new bookshelf or wall shelves to store them. My room's already a mess. I have the foresight to really recognize that although notebooks and pens make me happy, buying more will only worsen my mood. And I highly encourage all of you, whether you live like the TikTokers I showed you or not, to really look at where you're living and answer honestly, if I buy more things, will I truly be happier? There are things you can buy that can improve your life. Organizational things like shelves, acrylic storage containers, a vanity, all of that can help you stay organized, given that you actually use them to store things you already have. I know for me, someone who struggles with ADHD, I would not use organizational things, so I don't buy them. Any that I have bought are in my closet, and the ones that I do use are being used for either really specific purposes or as a junk drawer. I tried to stay organized, but it's really hard. And again, trying to live like any of the TikTokers I showed will do me no good. All of this is still not getting into the disastrous effects that overconsumption is having on Earth. I mean, it goes without saying that corporations are the ones most responsible for climate change, but that doesn't mean that we as individuals don't have a responsibility to reduce our carbon emissions and carbon footprints. Constantly buying new clothes from Shein because you don't want to be an outfit repeater is harmful to the environment. It's also harmful to your self-esteem, and you're thinking a lot more about yourself than anyone else does. I promise you, no one is thinking that much about you to recognize that you wore the same shirt twice. You're just a normal person, not a celebrity that will be featured on fashion websites. This isn't to insult anyone, but it is to make you recognize that you're adding extra pressure on yourself because of the warped way social media has made you think about yourself. Ultimately, in my opinion, a lot of overconsumption stems from anxiety. You're either over-consuming because you don't want to smell and you're scared others will think you're a dirty human being, or you're over-consuming because you want to fit a certain aesthetic, or you are scared that others will see you as weird if your house is not perfectly organized. Of course, though, there are more ways that this anxiety manifests. The scarcity mindset of it all is another thing. I'm going to play another clip from Kiki Chanel's video on overconsumption that explains what I mean by this.
You know, a lot of this stuff too, I mean, I feel like I'd be remiss to not say, but a lot of this stuff does come from a scarcity, I think, mindset, whether that came from like a moment before in your life where maybe you didn't have a lot of something. I know that for me, it was like, there's certain things where I'll overbuy something because I'm like scared I'll run out of it. Like I'll buy a lot of backups of things when I probably don't need to. Like I really need to work on finishing that product before I buy the next thing. So there's a lot of that scarcity mindset. There's a lot of scarcity marketing as well, like limited edition stuff, like with the Stanleys, for example. You know, it's the limited edition. Like I gotta have this right now, and it really fuels a lot of the overconsumption that we're seeing a lot of these days because of the FOMO, like the fear of missing out. That people are like, I'll never be able to buy this again. And it's frustrating. Like I am so frustrated too. And it's like, really, some of it's not even our fault because it's like these products, like you want to try the new product, but you don't know if it'll be, come back into stock. It'll be months before it comes back into stock. Am I going to be able to get this again? I don't know. So I have to buy it now. And I don't have time to think about what I'm buying.
And that's what companies are banking on. They're banking on you not thinking about what it is you're actually buying and if you actually need it. It is disturbingly easy to be influenced on social media, and that's what a lot of influencers are hoping for. They're hoping that you believe their exaggerated lifestyles and lies. If you do, you'll be more likely to interact with their content. And if you interact more with their content, they'll be more likely to earn more money. It's important to recognize that. It's also important to recognize that a lot of these TikTokers don't actually live that way. They have either kept one room clean and perfectly set up, and that's where they always film, or they'll clean their space before filming. In the case of restock influencers, they're most likely not stocking all of those things all the time. If you try and replicate the things that they show on their accounts, you likely still won't be living like them, and you definitely won't be as happy as they pretend to be on social media. I know there are a lot of people that look at trends with a critical eye before following them. I'm one of those people, and it's hard for us to see how or why others are following trends without thinking about them. But with the perfect conditions, anyone can be influenced. All it takes is effort. I am someone who lives by the phrase, everything happens for a reason. As you probably do know, because it's been all over the news, TikTok is getting banned on January 19th in the United States. Today, January 18th, I decided to log on to TikTok for one last time. Tomorrow, TikTok is doing a blackout, so nobody can access it, whether it's on your phone or not. A few scrolls into my For You page, I came across a video of Teeny. I mentioned her earlier in the video. I'll show you that TikTok here.
Finding out that like half these influencers fake their videos. Why does TikTok not even get banned and y'all just expose yourself? See me? I didn't buy these from the store. I really didn't make these. All the stuff I made from scratch, I made from scratch. I was in the kitchen for like 10 hours. 10 hours. I didn't fake any of that. You're telling me I could have gone to the store and buy some bread and peanut butter and say I made it from scratch? Like, what? That's insane to me, because this app's going to stay and y'all just expose yourselves.
And then I scrolled a bit more and I came across another TikTok, this time of an actual influencer that fits into the overconsumption category I talked about previously. Let's first watch her ice restock TikTok together. Keep in mind, she went viral for this. Everyone knows her as the Million Ice Cubes lady. Like, this is what made her TikTok famous. The caption on the screen says, "Stocking up on my fruit water and ice cubes." And she opens a drawer that's full of ice molds, then prepares cucumbers, lemons, raspberries, strawberries, cuts them up, puts them into the ice molds, puts water into them. She does the same thing with her water. It's just fruit infused water. It's nothing too crazy. Now let's watch her confessional. This is a TikTok to an audio of a movie or a show, so I'm going to narrate what's happening. The audio is saying, "Since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather." And then on the screen, the text reads, "I never actually used any of those special ice cubes. I don't like ice in my drinks besides coffee." This is what I mean when I say you can't change your lives to reflect the lives of influencers. It's not just her that's coming out with these secrets. Multiple overconsumption influencers are coming out and saying, "Yeah, I never used the things I bought." This is without a doubt insane. You know, these past few days have been really, really something for me. Here I am stressing over when this episode is going to go up. It's been 3 Fridays that I haven't uploaded a new episode. My initial hope for this episode was to get it up on the first Friday of January, but there was something in me, just a little voice telling me to wait. So I decided, well, I'm going to add captions on my podcast episodes. That's productive and it helps people, and maybe it'll help people discover my channel or make it so that more people stay all the way to the end. I don't know. And then I started doing some research on this episode. I got on TikTok to look for these different influencers, and the more that I dug, the more that I started to find more to add to the episode. I filmed this episode once and the audio sucked, so I deleted it and did not touch the script at all for a few days. And then I went to doctor's appointments, and at these appointments I kept thinking about this episode and more ideas would come to mind. When I first filmed it, I kept thinking, oh, this would have been like good to mention. And these were not just things that I could have added in a part 2 or saved for later. Like, for example, I originally did not mention Hoarders in my first draft or in my first recording. If you have subscribed to my Patreon, you'll see that initial draft and you'll see that it's much different to what my final video is like. But I was at a doctor's office and I kept thinking, I feel like I'm missing something. And that's when it occurred to me that I hadn't mentioned Hoarders at all. And so this episode kept getting delayed. And then today I had gotten up, and recently I've been doing a really good job at not scrolling on my phone as soon as I wake up. But something just told me, like, just go on TikTok, scroll in there for a bit. And I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I listened to my intuition, because now you don't just have to trust me when I tell you these influencers are lying about their lives. Now you can hear it from an influencer herself. This is an influencer who participated in overconsumption, who inspired her viewers to go on Amazon and buy 20 different ice molds, who had comments telling her that her life was so perfect and that they aspired to be more like her. And here she is, in her own words, telling you that she didn't even use the ice cubes she made. You don't have to believe me when I tell you that a lot of the overconsumption trends are lies. You just have to believe the influencers you watch. If you're wondering why I'm crying, to be honest, so am I. I don't know. I think it's a mix of the stress that I felt before finally just coming out, and it's also relief. It's relief knowing that me waiting 3 weeks to upload this episode was beneficial, at least to some degree. And to be honest, when I was editing the video and as I was filming the video too, I kept thinking, what if I get hate comments from all of these fans of overconsumption TikTok? What if I'm flooded with hate comments telling me, like, no, this actually makes me happy, you're wrong, like, you're just a hater? I don't think you guys understand, especially if you're not on TikTok, but a lot of these TikTokers that I talked about, a lot of overconsumption TikTokers have fierce fan bases who will go great lengths to not only live like them, but defend them. And I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's a little bit of fear of, like, what if these people attack me, because I'm attacking, quote unquote, their favorite influencers. But now it's like, well, they can't, because their favorite influencers are telling them, yeah, this is all a lie. And I think the reason why I got a little bit emotional was because it's like a sense of relief of, like, hopefully now these hardcore fans that are trying to live like their favorite influencers stop trying to live like their favorite influencers now that they know that it's all a lie. The reason why I've been wanting to make this episode since before I started my podcast, the reason why this was one of the first episode ideas that inspired me to make a podcast is because I was one of these people. I was one of the viewers that would see all of these influencers buying the cutest ice molds, the cutest stickers. And so I really understand a lot of these fans, and really from my own personal experience, I can say that a lot of these overconsumption fans are overconsumption fans because they have something going on in their lives that they want to completely forget about. And so they'll scroll on TikTok and they'll dream about what it would be like to have a life like that. They dream about what it would be like to be able to afford to buy so many different acrylic organizers. And to some, it might even be not just a measure of social worth, but something that they can look forward to and aspire to, right? And so I really feel really bad for these people, especially now that I have gotten out of that mindset and I've worked on my own mental health. I feel really bad for the people who are still stuck in that mentality, who are still stuck in that belief that they have to buy so many different things to be happy, because it really does take a hold on you. It really does. And because it takes such a hold on you, you kind of refuse to look at logic. And so even though you and I can sit here and say, well, majority of these influencers are lying, the people that are stuck in that mindset are going to tell you, no, they're not. And it's because if you tell them, like, this is all a lie, it's almost like you're telling them your dream, your aspiration is founded upon lies. Like, the foundation of your dreams, the foundation of what you aspire your house to look like is all based on lies. And it's almost like you're telling them, like, it's not worth it. You know, it's not worth it to look forward to having a life like this. It's not worth it to aspire to be like this. So to have one of these influencers say, yeah, this is all a lie, might just help more people that are stuck in this mindset get out of this mindset. And that's ultimately what I want for this episode. When I found this out, I thought I was gonna come on here and be like, see, I told you guys. And instead I'm crying. I think I'm also crying because I know a lot of kids watch overconsumption TikTok. I know when I was a kid and I watched beauty gurus on YouTube and I saw the makeup rooms that they had, and I saw the vanities that they had, and I saw their Sigma brushes and their Makeup Geek palettes and their Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk foundations. I was thinking, God, I can't wait until I have money to be able to live like this. I would sit there and on my tiny little Android CT1 phone, I would watch these YouTube videos, and I would watch people like Jaclyn Hill, and I would watch her put on her foundation, her concealer. She would use like the Anastasia brow pomade, and I would watch all of these things and I'd think to myself, like, this is success. This is what success looks like. And of course, I mean, I was 12. I didn't know what success actually was. But I do know that if you had told me then that it was all a lie, and that the Morphe palettes that she showed off and told us were really good quality weren't actually really good quality, I would have hated you. I would have told you, you're just jealous. You're just a hater. And it would have been such a cathartic experience for me to have Jaclyn Hill herself tell me, yeah, I'm selling you this Morphe makeup palette. I have a collab with Morphe, but they suck. I hate using them. It would have been such a cathartic experience for me, and I can't believe that in my lifetime I was able to see something like this happen. It feels so unbelievable to me. It really does. Which is why I made this episode, and I was making this episode with my fingers crossed that people would believe me and that people wouldn't call me a liar, and that this actually changed lives. It turns out these influencers themselves are exposing themselves. So you don't have to trust me, you really don't. You just have to trust the influencers that you're watching when they tell you all of this is a lie. Anyway, that is all that I have for today. Please let me know if I missed anything, or if there's another type of overconsumer that you see on TikTok, or if maybe you've been an overconsumer or an overbuyer. I said this on a live stream, but Kiki Chanel is one of my favorite channels on YouTube, and I think if you like what I'm doing here, you might also enjoy what she's doing. I will say she is a lot more blunt than I am, and she shares her opinions more than I do, but I still enjoy watching her. However, I know some of you guys are watching me because I don't share a lot of my opinions, so if that's you, you might not like Kiki Chanel, but as always, I will leave the videos that I reference in the description and show notes for you guys to watch it and check her out. I've been watching her for years and her style has evolved, but her opinions are still top notch. I usually don't like to watch videos of other creators before I make my own video. I like to go in blind and do all the research myself so that I'm not swayed or influenced by the opinions of others. But I watch Kiki Chanel's videos as soon as they come out, and it was a really great video. I highly encourage all of you to go watch it, especially if you want a deeper look at just how much money people are spending on their aesthetics. I also want to thank all of you for being patient with me and this upload. As you can probably tell by the length of this video, it took me a long time to research, write, edit, and upload that. And I had multiple doctor's appointments these past few weeks, so I wasn't able to focus on this episode as much as I usually do. Just so you know, my word count for this episode's script is 16,393 words. So it really did take me a long time to finish this episode. My scripts will usually be around 7,000 to 9,000 words, and this was twice as long. That, and I had to refilm this episode because the first time I filmed it, my audio sucked. So hopefully the audio here is better. I did test my audio out before filming though, so I got a new microphone, so it should be better. But if not, I'll have to return it, and I really don't want to return it because then that means I'll have to go back to my old microphone, and my old microphone picks up a lot of things I don't want it to pick up. But anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did, if you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe and comment your opinions. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please remember to leave a rating and a review and add my show to your library. I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.